years ago, two of my friends were working on this game. It was going to be the next Angry Birds, and they were working really, really hard for several months. And when they launched, their expectations were super high. They expected people to run like this. People would go crazy because this game, this was it. Unfortunately, what happened was more like this. But instead of giving up, they were going back to looking at the App Store and seeing, like, what is really missing? Which gaming experience is not anyone fulfilling today? Well, the answer was pretty clear to them after a while. It was Mario Kart. And with Mario Kart, you were able to play with your friends. You were sitting in front of a split screen and encouraging each other to mess up. And the winner would then be very much up in your face and tell you, hey, I won. They built out the concept of a game called Fun Run, where you were then racing in the forest as 4 cute forest animals, combining it with some blood and gore. But the synchronous multiplayer experience was really, really good. And when they launched, their expectations were super high. And what happened was still not a lot of people. But in comparison to their last game, this time their players were continuing to play day after day. And they were thinking, like, what if we were able to bring more people in? They didn't have any marketing budget, but they did go to a university with 30,000 students. So they started putting up a booth and had people join them to play. And slowly they were able to get some more momentum, and they even got the local candy factory to sponsor a lifetime supply of candy for a winner of a local competition. So through a lot of growth hacks, after 3 months, the inflection point came. They had enough users in the game, so when they launched a competition where players were encouraged to tweet about #FunRun, in order to find more friends to play in the game, it went viral. So it started trending worldwide on Twitter. People were going crazy through high schools. People were giving up the no phone rule and playing all the time. Eventually, it hit the #1 spot on the US App Store. Today, the team behind FunRun is still small and lean, but has reached 90 million downloads. I was part of that team for 2 years, struggling to make our users come back and acquiring more users. But it was really hard because the cost of user acquisition is just rising. And back in November, Fixu told us that to get a good user, you had to pay almost $6. And almost no casual games are able to do that, especially not when they're social. Because if you are having a multiplayer experience, you don't want to do any pay-to-win features where someone is being able to buy to win the race, right? So you're very limited to what you can do. And doing paid user acquisition at a profit is very rare. Usually marketing meetings look like this. So when this is what you're stacked against, what can you do if you don't have $6 to spend per good user? Well, you need to look at your current users. How can you encourage them to do the marketing for you? What are the tricks where you're leaving potential out on the table? Well, that is what I'm going to talk to you about today, based on the experience from FunRun, as well as experience working with other game developers since then. The tips will be highly focusing on casual games, but there will be elements that you can drive towards mid-core and hardcore type of games. And the slides will be available if you want them. So if you want your players to drive the installs for you, you need to make sure that you have players. But that is really hard because 80% of users downloading an app is only looking at it once. That means that you have one shot to really prove that this is the gameplay for them. Then why is this usually the screen that you see? You're being asked to opt into push notification as the first introduction to the game. It sucks. I always think that this is going to cause the developer to spam me. I don't know why I'm opting into this. So if I'm being presented with this up front, I get so mad and I click no. And sometimes you get really furious. And after then, what you should do, if you are going to ask for push notification, move it later to the state of the game when it makes sense. One thing that SteppyPants is doing really, really well. So in SteppyPants, you get a gift, and you can get a new gift every 20 minutes. So they ask you, right after you open the first gift, do you want to be reminded? And if you really like that gift, then you can hit yes. And then it's OK. You know that that's the only time they're going to ask about that. And if you like that stuff, then of course, then you know. So the first tip for you today is that if and when you're asking for a push notification, you need to give your users a reason and move it away from the very, very first screen. So with most gameplay, who here have played Mario Kart? Yeah. And who here played the Super Mario Run, the new game? Cool. So I also played it, and I downloaded it, and it looked like this.
Fire.
6 minutes. I wonder how many people they lost on that way. You really, really want to play Super Mario Run if you're sticking for that long. I want to play the game. I don't want to give them all this information and tell them which country I'm in, which they can already find from my phone. So what's really good with important for casual games is to throw your users into the gaming experience as soon as possible. And Agar is doing this really, really well. They're asking for your name, which could be whatever, and then you hit play, and then you're good. You may not understand everything that is happening in the game, but if you're playing, for instance, if a friend recruited you, then they're going to tell you. With FunRun, we actually found that players were more likely to stick around and enjoy the game if we skip the tutorial. And for your game, this might be different. It's all about how complex the game is. But for most casual games, it's pretty safe to throw them straight in. But you should definitely A/B test this and figure out what's working for your game or not. But the most important thing is that a player is downloading your game to play, not just sign up and do a lot of hassle. And when you're doing the whole onboarding experience, it's so important that it makes sense, that it's working, you're never really stuck. It needs to work for toddlers as well as grandmas. And the best way for you to really test if your onboarding experience is working out is to give it to your grandma. If she gets stuck, then you know exactly what you need to improve. She needs to see that the play button is there. It's not there among 30 other buttons. So I call this a grandma test. And it's very easy to do, as long as you can access some grandma amongst yourself. Another thing that is working well for games is to find a way to make it public. Make the gameplay experience public. Pokemon Go did a very good job with that this summer, or last summer, when people had to go out and about to really get the full experience. Then people were looking at what are everyone doing? Why is everyone running around? I want to take part of that in that. One thing that worked well for FunRun, if we get sound. Should we try again?
Oh, yes! Oh, yes! Oh,
this is very, very visible. Synchronous multiplayer experience is a lot of time giving you that. So make sure that if you have the opportunity to create some public awareness about your games when people are playing it, utilize that. Use it for your advantage. So make your game public or visible. So when people are playing your games, there are elements of it that when you're talking about it, it's not really convincing anyone, but if you show images, it's just so much more compelling. An image is describing better than 1,000 words, as a saying. And I think that Stamped is doing a really good job at this. They're making you capture a personal image of how you're capturing animals while you're stamping around. Another one that is allowing you to capture content in the game and sharing that off is Crossroad. It's doing great when you're on Impact. But another way to do this even better is that an animated GIF is saying more than 50 images. Who here is saying GIF and who here is saying GIF? It's a very religious thing. Is it okay if I go for GIF?
Yeah, GIF is perfect.
All right, so with Crossroad, for instance, this is the impact. This is what I'm sharing. But personally, I want to see what more is happening until that point. Like, what tactics did I use? Was this actually a smart move? Maybe not. But it's showing so much more. It's more engaging. And it's good. Alternatively, there's a lot of people playing adult coloring books these days. And this is created by Candy Writer. And it's a beautiful picture for Valentine's. But I'm curious to see how it was made. A lot of details went into this. So if you're sharing something, images are great. But if you can add some more context to that, in form of a video or a GIF, that's very, very good. But it needs to be personal. It can't be something generic that everyone is passing up. You want to share something when you put some pride into it. So for the next one, people are more likely to share if they get super happy or super sad or angry. And a way to encourage your users to share content from your game, those awesome moments, I think Steppy Pants is doing a really good job. Here you're playing, and then when you get into high score, you're prompted to share. Otherwise, you're not. Then it doesn't feel spammy at all. It feels more natural to that experience. So when you want to encourage your players to do content sharing for you, you need to make it relevant. You need to prompt them on those specific moments in the game where it makes sense for them to share. And those are the moments where you're either on a high or very, very low. However, when you're reaching a high score like this, you're probably really mad as well because you could have gone a little bit further if you didn't screw up. When you're doing content sharing, for instance, with Agar, you're so in the moment, like you're getting that high score. I take great pride in reaching number 24th. But if I want to store that and show it to my friends, I need to let loose of the controls, move my hands to the side, and screenshot. That's valuable seconds. I might be eaten by then. So one recommendation to a gameplay like that is to actually add a camera button that you can click just right next to the movement in case you want to capture those moments without disturbing the gameplay. And then you can share them off later. And Crossroad is also doing this really well. Like, they have these subtle share buttons all through the game. If you want to share it, then you can. So if you want people to make it easy for your players to show their friends how awesome a gaming experience is, make it easy for them. Have these subtle share buttons throughout your game. But when people are sharing content, we all know the horror stories from Candy Crush, how they made you spam all your Facebook friends. I know I blocked a lot of my Facebook friends because of this. Like, they even auto-selected it for you. So if you just pressed through too quickly, you were probably banned. What is a lot better is if you can allow your users to choose what channels that is relevant for them. The trend now is actually people sharing to iMessage and WhatsApp and Messenger. Like, it's the personal channels that are more applicable to users. You only want to share things when it's relevant for the recipient. You don't want, like, there's so much space in games being handed off to share to Facebook, share to Twitter. People are not using that anymore. So let players choose the channel they prefer to share to. We see 60% of all shares are being shared to Messenger channels. Secondly, it's email. And then Facebook and Twitter comes down the road. Going back to an example from Fun Run, in the beginning, people were sharing this high score screen a lot. We started making it simpler for them to share it by adding this camera button. Its subtle is there if they want to. When they hit it, they would be able to share, and here's Twitter. And we had predefined text. So here it's having a blast. And then we also went to Twitter to see how are people communicating about the game? Like, what wording are they already using? And they would say that I just beat the golden fox, which is an element in the game, and then we would trigger that automatically if they beat the golden fox. They would also use wording like get on my level, son. Very foreign for me, but that's the smack talk that we're using. And then want to catch an L. Another one is all those guys just got washed. And these are all triggered based on how you performed in a race, which means that when a player was like, shit, I want to share this, they hit the share button, and then they didn't, it felt personal to them to share this type of text, so they didn't need to spend time editing it. But if they wanted to, they could. So if you do want to have your players share content from a game, it's highly recommended that you have a pool of predefined text to trigger based on relevance from the experience in the game. When you're sharing this, and gaming experience is so much more fun with friends, and an example for Mario Kart is that you're able to share, in addition to spamming Facebook and Twitter, you can choose to use iMessage and email. And when you share that, the recipient gets a text like this. If you click the link, you're being taken to their website. You either then are sent to the App Store if you don't have it already, and then you download, or you click open. And then you open the game, and then you're asked to send a friend request, which is totally weird because you already clicked the link receiving from that friend. What they could have done, which would be a way better experience for users, would be to show the player what the experience was like. Like if I would receive something like that, I would be more compelled to try it out. You can all see how I'm missing the last part there. Sucks. But if you click the link, you should enable universal linking and deep linking to put the player directly into the game state that the person inviting you from were at. So here, me is want to play BOGO right away. It's super simple. It's removing friction. So for your game, the best onboarding experience for a new user is when you're taken to this situation in game that you were presented with, which you can do with deep linking and universal linking. So in summary, you should always give a reason for your users to opt into push notification. This will improve the first-time user experience. A/B test which onboarding experience works for your game. You should always try to pass the grammar test. You'll find some friction points, which is really obvious in retrospective. You should try and make your game public and have people play it in public. If you're doing content sharing, make sure that the players are capturing personal elements from the game. It's so much better to share those. And when you're sharing, make it relevant to share. Encourage players to do those sharing when they feel like sharing because they're either on a high or very low. And make it easy to share. You don't really know when players are likely wanting to share, so don't restrict them the ability to do so. And then let players choose what channel to share to that is relevant to them. And use a pool of predefined text that will ease the friction of sharing. And then if you use deep linking and universal linking for improved onboarding, that helps a lot. So you're not stuck at different aspects of the game. So if you want this presentation, you can email me. I hope this helps you from this. to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Actually, one thing we learned through doing every play, so at Unity we have this every play system which allows you to record the gameplay, because people don't remember the bits that they want to share until they've happened. So you can't predict what's going to happen that's going to be interesting. So it's been really interesting because we auto-record. And so that's an important thing to think about, is like, how are you going to make sure that you capture the moments that player has just had, rather than having them guess what's going to happen. So that's really, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cool.